And welcome everybody to the Huddle on KGUN 9 streaming platforms. I'm Jason Barr, joined by Pat Parris. We talk sports every Tuesday at this time. Pat, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm doing well, Jason. You might think, what is he doing? Where is he at? Well, I'm actually at Old Tucson. And the reason being that they awarded the lease today to American Heritage Railways, the Board of Supervisors did. So I was here when they walked on property for the first time. You're going to see that at 5 o'clock. And we've got kind of behind the scenes look and an exclusive with the new, I won't call them owners because the county still owns the land, but they are the new group that's going to be heading up Old Tucson and opening it back up probably by fall, they say.
Fantastic. We'll look for that at 5 o'clock. In the meantime, we're going to talk a little baseball here because opening day is Thursday. The Diamondbacks open up against the Padres, and a week late, but they're going to get in all 162 games here for Major League Baseball. Pat, I picked 4 rule changes for this season that we're going to talk about. The universal DH, the playoff expansion, a draft lottery, and ads on the uniforms. And we're going to tackle each one and see if we agree or disagree on them. So the first one, universal designated hitter. So of course that means the National League, the first time they're going to use the DH and pitchers aren't going to hit. Pat, I'm not a fan of this. I love pitchers hitting. I feel like it's part of the strategy of baseball. It differentiates the National League and the American League. I like to see what pitchers could hit. I liked Zach Greinke hitting. I like the different strategies and the different ways late in the game of how you do the pitching and the double switches. I'm not a fan of this rule. I believe it is to get an extra job in there for the players. Your thoughts on universal DH? You covered baseball a long time.
I had your sentiments exactly, Jason, for the longest time. And it's only been the last few years where I've started to come around and thought, okay, it's a competitive advantage for the American League. Yes, the National League wins the World Series occasionally. Dodgers have done it. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but it just seems to has become such a big disparity between the American National League as a whole. And as long as you're doing interleague play, as long as you're facing each other all the time, that to me is when it became more and more apparent of the haves versus the have-nots. And so I came around to begrudgingly say, look, I love pitchers hitting. It's part of the game at every other level. It's unfortunate, but because one league has it and the other one doesn't, it's not fair. So you have to make it even. And there was no appetite whatsoever for the American League getting rid of the DH. That's what I would have hoped for.
Well, because it costs a job. It's an extra job to have
exactly. And so as we know, Major League Baseball has, arguably the strongest labor union of all of the leagues, and they got what they wanted. They now have the DH in the National League, and I've come around to it. And it's I didn't want it to happen. I still don't want it to happen. It happened. So now at least I believe the competitive advantage is been nullified.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. It has nothing to do with being old school or old fashioned because there are new rules that I do like, or new proposed rules. We'll get into that later. Okay, playoffs expanded to 12 teams from 10 teams. Eric says, I truly like the expanded playoffs. Okay, no, that's terrific. Now, what they are doing, because they are adding more teams in, is they are giving a higher incentive to the division winners. So there's 6 division winners, 3 in each league, but only the top 2 division winners will get a bye. And then if you're not the home wild card team, you don't get any home games. So there's a little give and take there, Pat. Yes, they're expanding the playoffs, but almost a bigger edge to the teams that win the division and get the better records.
Yeah, it's similar to what the NFL does, right? The top couple of seeds get the bye, and
now it's just the top seed, though.
Yeah, now it's just you're right. They just changed it to the top seed, but it's very similar in that regard. And I think the thing you have to remember is, what does this take it to? 40% of all teams now have a chance to make the playoffs, and I think that's in line with the other. I don't have a problem with that. I think again, the bottom line is always money, right? We just talked about it with the DH Players Association wanted more money for their players. They get it with the DH in the National League. Owners are going to get a little bit more money. There's going to be another round of playout. Basically another team in the playoffs, another, in essence, another round of playoffs. So I think that's what drives it. I think that you're right. I think giving those 2 teams in each league a bye, it really does incentivize them to finish out strong and get that, not only home field advantage, but get that opportunity to rest your pitchers. And, it's always about setting up your rotation, right? And that's what you want to do.
All right, speaking of finishing strong, that gets us to the third one, draft lottery to discourage tanking. This is normally something that you would see in the NBA when there's that great college basketball player and the teams at the end of the year don't want to do well, so they get the great draft pick. Possibly is why the NBA had a draft lottery and has had one for a very long time now. You don't really usually see this in baseball, but there was a little bit of an issue last year, I believe, with Kumar Rocker and the Mets, where people thought the Mets might be tanking. So I'm fine with this to make sure. I just think it's not going to be every year where it's a situation where or as often as it would be in basketball. I think it's rare that you had a year like last year where you had the two Vanderbilt pitchers, Leiter and Rocker, that everybody wanted. Right. So to prevent tanking, I'm for anything that prevents tanking, because really it does benefit a team to lose late in the year and then to get the best pick. So I'm fine with this rule.
Yeah, I am too, and I think you're right. I think it very rarely happens in baseball, especially because there's so much subjectivity about baseball generally, about where guys should be slotted. Then you get the whole compensation where they're slotted and all that kind of stuff. But I think really what it comes down to is just leave it out, and this does that. Just don't even let it become something that enters people's minds. We don't think about that in the NBA very often, do we? We always think, okay, there's a lottery that's going to even things out. You don't need to, tank. You may not really try because you're not making the playoffs anymore, but you're not just going to tank. You have a pretty, we've seen it. We've seen teams jump up quite a bit in the NBA. That might happen in Major League Baseball, but I don't think it'll have a major impact. Baseball, your players are several years away anyway. Even the top pitchers can take a little bit of time to get up there. So I think it's a different animal, but I don't mind it.
Yeah. Okay. Uniform advertisements. These are just ads on uniforms. To me, I mean, I remember watching Jimmy Connors play tennis in 1984, and he's got McDonald's on the shoulder. I'm surprised this is a big deal or anybody's thinking about it. But I guess if you're a baseball purist and you think back to uniforms of yesteryear, maybe the thought of a patch on them is a big deal. But listen, I mean, you're going to try to make money any way you can. And they're just catching up to some other sports here. I put this one in the category of no big deal.
Well, I think it's a no big deal as well. I mean, just think about every soccer team or football team, soccer team internationally, the football teams. It's Emirates Air, it's whatever. I mean, it's been that way forever. You're going to notice it right away, and then eventually you won't even notice it at all. And so, whatever. I consider myself to be somewhat of a baseball purist. It's not going to change the game at all. Not like the DH in the National League is going to change the game. So whatever. Whatever. It's going to make a little bit extra money for them. That's their that's their prerogative.
Speaking of lots of ads, before we get to some proposed 2023 rule changes, what do you think of Formula One getting as good ratings as NASCAR this year?
Well, and not only that, Jason, do you see they're going back to Las Vegas now for next year? I believe it is. Yeah. They're going to have a street course through Vegas, which I cannot wait to see. It's phenomenal. It's going to be a night race. Formula One to me, for a time it was, Sunday mornings I'm flipping through their let me see if Sports Center's. Oh no, it's Formula One. I'll watch for a little bit, but to me it's fascinating. It's a whole different animal when it comes to racing. That we're I guess the closest thing we would have would be IndyCar racing, but I think the fact that it's now become even more of an Americanized sport, because tell me if I'm wrong, is next year there going to be 3 stops in the U.S. maybe with Vegas,
Miami and Austin, Texas, no?
Right, and then it'll be Vegas.
Do they race Montreal? That's almost.
Yeah, right. Well, North America for sure. So yeah. I think they market extremely well. I think the product.
So give me something. I haven't sat down yet to watch a full race. If I'm going to sit down and watch the entire race, when somebody asks me about NASCAR, they say, "Well, what do I look for?" I say, "Find a driver you like and root for him." Give me something to look for if I'm going to sit down and watch a Formula One race.
Formula One boils down to a couple of things. One, it's manufacturer. Manufacturers are, you've got Ferrari, you've got Mercedes, you've got Honda. The manufacturers to me are bigger than they are than they are in even in NASCAR, where I know it's Ford and Toyota and Chevy, but it becomes even more of a big deal. And there are drivers you're gonna gravitate towards. There are young and upcoming drivers. There are the established drivers, but also Formula One. They're the ones that invented it, for a better term, analytics. The amount of telemetry and diagnostics and everything that's on their little wheel that's now on the screen, to me it's like a video game. And I think maybe
High tech.
that's why their ratings are getting better and better, because there is that sense of the video game. And those who grew up in video game world and those of us who play video games, we can identify with what that guy is or gal is doing in a cockpit and driving at 200 miles an hour and then making, chicane turns and everything. To me, it's really, it's a lot of fun to watch. It's pretty thrilling.
All right, Tom Girard, though, not a fan. He writes, "Who cares anymore?" All right, so let's get to
Tom.
Let's get to our 2023. Now, these are proposed rule changes. These are not implemented yet, but they're quite interesting. So that's why I thought we'd bring them in. Now, here's the one I do feel strongly about: pitch clock. Yes, baseball needs a pitch clock. And I don't want to hear anything about purists, no time, whatever. You go back 40, 50 years, Pat, no batter was stepping out of the batter's box for 5 minutes. You know what I mean? For a long time after every single pitch. Okay. Once the
undo the
clock
Velcro
is,
of the gloves, undo the Velcro of the
that's right.
gloves.
Once the pitch clock is in there, you know what people are going to say after a couple of years? Oh yeah, it's like, I can't imagine without it. It's like the shot clock in basketball.
In basketball,
You need a pitch clock. I love college softball because the batters don't step out. It's such a quick, fast game. This game needs a pitch clock. I think we'll speed it up, and it will not be an advantage to the pitchers or the hitters. I think it'll neutralize. I'm hearing things like 14 seconds and 19 with a runner on base. Pat, I want the pitch clock. What do you think of the pitch clock?
I'm. This is where we agree. You've got to speed the game up. I don't have any problem with the pitch clock. I guess the intricacies of how long it's going to be, that how short it's going to be, that kind of thing. But I think that I don't know why you would not want a pitch clock. What's it going to hurt you? I mean, what
the batters don't want it. The batters don't want it.
I understand that, but we got to speed the game up. Period. We got to speed the game up.
All right, Sona Ferrando, I totally agree. I want a pitch clock. Okay, ban on defensive shifts. I was a little surprised that there was such strong sentiment on this, but I guess you take a look. It's a defensive rule if this happens, and you take a look at defense. You compare it to another sport. In the NBA, the zone is illegal. They call it illegal defense, but in college basketball, you can play a zone. I'm for anything with strategy, so I don't have a problem with defensive shifts. If a player hits it all the way to second base much more than hits it elsewhere, I think you should be able to put a shift in there, and then I think it's up to the batter to hit it where they're not. So I'd rather not see that rule implemented.
Yeah, when shifts started coming around, it was one of those things like, wait a minute, what are you doing? I mean, I get it. Analytics have really evolved to the point where you know exactly where to position a guy, and the odds and the percentages say this batter is going to hit it right there. And I kind of again have evolved into thinking, okay, that's really smart. These analytics departments for these teams have figured this all out, and if you want to shift over there, but it still gets back to the batter has to figure out a way to beat that shift. So stop hitting it there, as you said, hit it where they ain't. And also, what happens occasionally, Jason, when a team will say shift, the third baseman around to the right side. So you got three infielders on the right side and only one hovering around second base. Well, it's then imperative on the pitcher to throw the ball in the right spot. Every once in a while, they don't. And guess what happens? They throw it to if you're a right-handed batter, they throw it inside or the left-handed batter, throw it outside, and they can hit it to where there's nobody at. So there are mistakes that still are happening with that. So it's not a perfect science, the shift that gets put on. Pitchers still have to make the pitches where they're supposed to pitch it, and batters have to make adjustments. And if they don't, they're going to be out. So I don't know why you'd have to change that rule. Let them stand where they want.
Yeah, I don't want to see it, but I don't feel strongly about it either. Okay, bigger bases. This one's not for the fan. This one is for the player. So you really got to hear from them and why they want bigger bases. And when I first saw this, I'm like, what do you need bigger bases for? But then it was explained to me about injuries, and it was explained to me about how the players. This one is more understandable here. A player will slide over the base and get tagged out, I suppose. So I think this one is for the players. If the players want it, they feel they need bigger bases to prevent injuries and to have something like that happen, then sliding over the base, that I'm fine with it. I don't think this one's more for the. I don't think this one's for the fans. And if the players
Yeah.
say they need bigger bases and they all believe that, then fine, have your bigger bases. I don't think it's a big deal. 3
I
inches.
think
What are we talking about here?
I think I defer as well to
Yeah.
the base runners. What do they want? Lindsey Hopkins says it's strategy. You can't ban someone's strategy. Going back to the shifting, if you pay someone millions to hit a ball, they should be able to adjust. Well, you got that spot on, Lindsey. I think we're both
Yeah.
in agreement with that.
Lindsay, in the NBA, the reason why zone defense is illegal is because they want those one-on-one matchups and they want to be able to showcase the individual player's talent. So, in that case, I'm kind of for the ban on zone defense, and I'm fine with it. Maybe that's because I'm what I'm used to. There could be some of that too. Yeah, but
But Jason, notice what's happened in college basketball. How many teams run like the pure zone anymore besides Syracuse?
well, there's variations of the zone now.
There
I
are,
mean, it
but I'm
always has
saying,
been, but there's
but the full time. Oh, that's a zone team. You hardly ever hear them. Teams will go into a zone when the man to man's not working, or they're getting beat. Let's say they're getting beat badly inside. They might go to a zone to try to pack to pack the paint, so that teams have to try to shoot over it. But my point is, I think college basketball's evolved into a little bit of a one-on-one game sometimes too, or at least it's evolved into a point where offenses are being run, and really your best defense against that offense is man to man and not the zone.
all right. So one of the things that we see, we'll introduce here the gambling aspect of it that people like to bet on a couple days before baseball, has to do with the over/under on how many wins a team is going to have during a season. So, for example, you can bet a certain team is an over/under, and if you think they're going to win fewer than whatever their number is, let's just say 81. Because that would be 50% of their games winning. You can bet over or under that amount. And so for the Diamondbacks this year, that number would be 66.5. So if you win 66, quick math here, that means you're going to lose 96. So Vegas is predicting the Diamondbacks to go 66-96. Now, while you may not think that's very good, the Diamondbacks won 52 games last year, right?
Right. That's a
Now,
big improvement.
is
Yeah.
their team really that materially better that they should win 14 more games? I think those 14 wins are just coming from, it's just such a weird deviation for anybody to only win 52 games in a year. I'm inclined to take the under of the 66.5 of the Diamondbacks. I'm going to put you on the spot here, Pat. Diamondbacks at 66.5. You taking the under or the over for wins? I'm going with the under.
Oof. I think what it is you say, can they really be that bad again? Can they really not even get to 67 wins? Boy,
Look at the
Jason,
division. The division's
you're
good.
you're putting me on the spot, but I'm inclined to say 66 wins, not 66 and a half. You see where I'm at? It's just barely under, but I think they might be under. They are, every power ranking I see, they are 28th, somewhere around that, out of the 30 teams. Generally, only the Pirates and the Orioles are behind the Diamondbacks right now in the power rankings, and I hate to see it, and I it's our home state team, and I'd love to see them get back to where they were a few years ago, but they just do not have the talent to do that.
Yeah. Well, they're going to know a lot more after one game. Not to put too much on Mad Bum, his first start, but boy, you hope he's got a good first start, and you hope that's a symbol of how he's going to do the rest of the year.
Yeah,
All right,
and we haven't even.
Alex will tackle this. Robot umpires
Okay.
coming to AAA baseball. Do you see the same happening with MLB? Here's my take on it. I do have a strong opinion on this. And my opinion, Pat, is this. Do you think the home plate umpire is part of baseball? If you don't, okay, if you don't think he's part of the game, Absolutely. It should be a computerized strike zone, and the umpire, we don't have to take his job away. I don't want that to happen. He can still call ball and strike. He can still be the chief head of the crew, and he can still, call outer safe when the ball reaches home plate. But why? But take the error out of it, just like you saw in tennis. Take the error out of it. I don't think that the umpire should be calling balls and strikes. I do think it should be a computer. And the only, to me, argument against that is if you think that umpire is part of the game, meaning, he's working with the pitchers, the pitcher's trying to, just get to the strike zone, like the way Tom Glavine pitched is what I'm trying to say, where he's
Right.
nibbling on the edge and the
Right.
umpire recognizes it. And Tom Glavine's a veteran, so he's going to give them that pitch, but the rookie may not get it. Okay. That's one example. To me, I don't think the umpire is part of the game. I would like to see a computerized strike zone.
I'm not there yet, Jason. I'm just not there yet. I'm willing to try it at the minor league level. I'm willing to try it at the AAA level and see how it goes. But I think this is one of those situations where you're going to have almost a generation of players in the minors before you even introduce it into the majors. I'm not saying 20 years, but I'm saying you might need a 5-year period to try it out in the minors, work all the kinks out, and get those young players coming up used to that idea, not only the hitters but the pitchers, and just see, because if you dive in head first and it's not everything that it's promising to be, and there are issues, then it's hard to go back. So I want to make sure that it's
ironing out all the kinks, but I also think it's a bad product, Pat, when you're watching baseball and on the television screen you see the strike zone. Okay, the pitcher misses the strike zone, it's called a strike, and that's like replayed, and the umpire looks bad 30 times.
I can tell you this,
night.
Jason. I can tell you
That's not a good product, Pat.
Having worked for sports networks doing Major League Baseball for as long as I did, that the one you see on TV isn't always that accurate either. It's now that's not going to be the one that they use when it comes to the to calling balls and strikes. It's a much more high-tech situation, a much more high-tech solution. But the one you call up on your phone, and the MLB has one, and you see it on the TV. It's not foolproof. It's not 100% accurate either, like it would be. So remember that when you're watching sometimes, and you're like, how can they miss that? And sometimes it's off by quite a bit. Sometimes
I don't think the average fan knows that. I just think the average fan's watching TV and be like, I'm pulling again.
Do you think the announcers want to say, well, ours is just kind of a representation? But that's what it is. It's a representation. It's fairly accurate. I would say that most of the time you can use it as a guide, but I wouldn't stand up and throw a brick through my TV if it showed it being off compared to what the actual strike zone is.
Yeah, I'll address JD Martinez really fast, and then we got to roll here. Sometimes you sign a guy has a big year in the final year of his contract. Okay, you sign him to a big contract, and then he produces a third of what he used to produce. Okay, and then sometimes you sign him to a big contract and he produces just the same as he did in the final year of his deal, and you just don't know. And JD Martinez produced great even when he got his new contract. Some guys don't. It's tough. It's tough to figure how that's going to go. So
yeah, I agree with that, Jason. But I'll say this: that let us know right then what the future plans of the Diamondbacks were, because you saw but
they gave Peralta a big contract, and his numbers haven't been good.
But not the kind of contract they would have had to give JD to give JD Martinez, and not the kind of contract they would have had to give Paul, keep Paul Goldschmidt under, and it just became it kind of devolved from there in wins and quality of team that you're putting on the field. All
right. So it was a good baseball chat here as we get ready for opening day Thursday. It's the Diamondbacks up at Chase Field going to take on the Padres. Yu Darvish and Madison Bumgarner are going to start the opener a week later. But like I said, also 162 games are going to get in. All right. Anything else, Pat, before we say goodbye? No, I know you got
we got to get busy on the 5 and the 6. So we'll do that next.
All right. Oh, wait, what's this, Pat?
Oh, congrats, Jason.
Oh, wow.
It's your 10-year anniversary today. I promised you a cupcake, but I didn't realize I wasn't going to be there. So what I did was I had a cake brought in for you. No, I didn't. Somebody else did.
Thank you so much. It is 10 years ago today on my first day. Jake Knapp was the other sports anchor, and he quit. He took one look at me, said, I'm not working with this guy. No, in all seriousness, he went to Phoenix. But
Yep.
yeah, so actually, Pat, my predecessor, who many in Tucson know as Dave Silver, was here
Yes.
for 28 years. So when you think about it, K-Gun has only had 2 sports directors in 38 years. So that's a pretty cool feat for K-Gun, I would say. And
I would agree.
yeah, I
I
can't
got
believe
I
it's
got one for you real quick.
what's that?
When I was very young, just out of college, I worked in Des Moines at WHO TV in Des Moines. The only sports directors, the one right before me is his name was Jeff Bimeford. Before that, it was the longtime radio voice of the Iowa Hawkeyes, Jim Zabel. And before that was a guy named Dutch Reagan, became president of the United States. So I was only the 4th sports director at WHO, of all those many years, and it went all the way back to Ronald Dutch Reagan.
That was a joke that Ronald Reagan made that didn't make me feel very good. He was like, if only I had concentrated more on my sports casting.
Yeah.
Thank you for the nice words, everybody. And yeah, no, so on every anniversary, we're not going to reflect here, but I think 10 is a big
10's
one,
worthy.
so.
It's worthy, Jason.
So
Congratulations.
that's nice of you to say. All right, I'll let you get back to the 5.
All right.
Working on the 5 o'clock news.
We'll see you on TV. All right.
Yeah, we'll see you on TV. Thanks so much, Pat, and thanks everybody for streaming here on the Huddle here on K-Gun 9, and we'll see you right back here next Tuesday at the same time. Thanks, everybody.